evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the English news from Djibouti channels. Here are the top stories of our editions tonight. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, presides over the 7th session of the Council of Ministers. On continental news, the stop of Hodeida's company in Yemen this Tuesday. We will tell more details in our news. Welcome if you join us on Djibouti channels under the chairmanship of the head of state, the head of government, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, was held this morning the 7th meeting of the Council of Ministers, which mainly focused on the adoptions of the budget estimated for the year 2019. For more details, let's follow the speech of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the spokesman of the government.
It's under the chairmanship of the head of state, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, that has been held this morning, the 17th Ministers' Council. The following bills have been on the agenda. The first bill concerned a draft law amending and codifying the operations of the General Pension Scheme for employed persons as amended by the Act 122. This bill concerned the allocations of retirement pension. This is the reductions of the prior marriage durations reduced to 2 years for both schemes instead of 5 or 6 years previously eligible. The second bill is related to a draft law number 3, year 2002, revising the terms and conditions of contribution to the acquisitions of the pension rights of widows and orphans by the National Pension Fund. If at the time of the death of the insured one or more children depend on the marriage, the pension entitlement of the surviving spouse is acquired if the marriage lasted 2 years. The third bill concerned a draft order bearing the budget of the National Social Security Fund. The budget for 2019 revenue is at 25 billion Djiboutian francs in total, expenditure predicted as 21 billion Djiboutian francs. The fourth bill concerned a draft decisions approving the 2019 budget of the National Geothermal Agency. This budget is in product 780 million Djiboutian francs. The fifth bill concerned a draft order approving the budget of the Economic Development Fund. This budget amount 550 million Djiboutian francs with an amount of 91 million Djiboutian francs. The sixth bill is related to a draft decree granting a parcel of land for the benefit of the Palmeraie Development Agency. This parcel, located at Salien West Route near Venice, is attributed at the cost of 1,000 francs per square meter. This parcel is intended for the implementation of a tourism project. The seventh bill concerned a draft order approving the 2019 budget of the Military Pension Fund. The budget amount 1.8 billion Djiboutian francs. The eighth bill is related to a draft order approving the budget of the Djibouti International Airport. This budget for the year 2019 is 3 billion Djiboutian francs and in charge of operating at 3 billion. The ninth bill concerned a draft decision approving the budget for the year 2019 of the National Weather Agency, which stand at 182 million Djiboutian francs. The 10th bill concerned a draft order approving and executing the budget for the year 2019 of the National Education, Information and Production Center. This budget stand at 539 million Djiboutian francs. The center owned resources from the sales of school textbooks are estimated at 50 million Djiboutian francs. The 11th bill concerned a draft order granting the accreditations of the Finance Accounting Professional License to the African Institute. This license is intended to grant the Institute the permission for training and teaching. The 11th bill concerned a draft order approving the Douane Zakat budget. This budget for the year 2019 stands at 120 million Djiboutian francs. The 13th bill is related to a draft decree on the functioning of the Urban Rehabilitation and Social Housing Agency known as ARULOS. The new agency will have the mission to carry out programs for construction of social housings and to implement operation and reconstruction, but also rehabilitation of the precarious, to facilitate the accessions of the property ownership and to support the initiative of self-construction by the action of loans in building materials. It is presented in this drafted decree the functioning as well as the prerogatives of the various structure that will serve as a support for the attributes of the agency. The 14th bill concerned a draft order approving the budget of the Djibouti Intellectual Property Office for the year 2019. The budget of the office stands at 350 million Djiboutian francs. The Djibouti Intellectual Property Office worked to improve the business climate through its direct and committed actions at the one-stop shop, where it has chaired the director committee since September 2018. The office also plans to set up a common business identifier that each business company can have a recognizable business identity card from all the government departments. The 15th bill concerned a draft amendment to a grant agreement for the construction of the We'adan Dam on Turkish financing. The initial financing of 12 million euros has been increased to 17 million euros due to the additional cost occurred by the damage caused by the Sagar cyclone. The 16th bill concerned a draft decree appointing as the Center for Leadership and Entrepreneurship General Director Mrs. Ubah Ahmed Malou.
Delegation of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, including Dr. Samuel Urgato, Ministers of Mines, Energy and Natural Gas, and Dr. Kiang Tutlam, Minister of State in charge of Petroleum, and 3 other senior officials yesterday afternoon visited the container terminal where she was graded on their arrival by the general manager of the Container Terminal Management Company, Mr. Abdullahi Abdawi Siad, and his close associates. The Minister of Energy and Judge of Natural Resources, Mr. Yunis Ali Gedi, was keen to accompany and lead the delegations on the spot. The Managing Director of Container Terminal Management Company, Mr. Abdullahi Abdawi, has provided all necessary information and data on the activities of the Dorale Container Terminal, which is about to celebrate the 10th anniversary since its interior services. Djibouti ambassadors stationed in several cities around the world have visited today the poor infrastructure of country. They went to the multi-services port of Dorale, to the oil terminal, and to the Dorale container terminal. The Djibouti ambassadors are meeting in Djibouti for their biennial conference. The DMP welcomed today the ambassador of Djibouti, accredited to foreign in the meeting room of DMP Djibouti Port Authority Chairman Abu Bakr Omar Hadi and Port Director Djibouti Mr. Saad Omar Gelik, who chaired this meeting. The objective of this meeting is through this meeting with the ambassador of Djibouti accredited abroad, the Port Authority seek to attract investors and exchange their country where they are accredited. The Minister of Health, Dr. Jama Al-Mauki, received the large delegations from the IGA led by the Executive Secretary, Mr. Mahyoum Malim, as part of the implementations of a joint plan of coordinations and collaborations in the field of health. The Minister of Health and the Executive Secretary of IGA discussed ways and means to strengthen their cooperation with a view to intensifying joint actions focused on project and program with a cross-borders or regional dimension. It will be recalled, however, that Secretary General Dr. Salah bin Noita, as well as several director and senior staff of the Department of Health, took part in this working meeting with the Intergovernmental Authorities on Development (IGAD). In this introduction, the Ministers of Health retired the commitment of his department and his mobilizations of the resources to effectively carry out all necessary and useful actions alongside. In addition, both parties will use therefore around a common strategy in epidemiological surveillance and response, all playing along the migration corridors in our country. The Minister of Decentralization closed yesterday at the People's Palace to validate the workshop. The study report was written by the team of national consultants for the benefit of the Ministry of Decentralization with the support of the partner of UNICEF. The closing ceremony was chaired by the General Secretary, Mr. Mohammed Issa, in the presence of the sub-prefect, as well as the President of Regional Council, and the committee created to support consults and carry out this study. In addition, the various officials of the Ministry of Decentralization and his partners, UNICEF, the head of the civil status centers of Djibouti City and the interview regions. UNFD, the National Union of Women, in collaboration with the UNICEF, organized an awareness and debate evening for the total abandonment of female genital mutilations in PK 12, which was attended by a wide audience of men, women, and young people. In the discourse tells the stories of a young girl distressed after having surprised the conversations between her mother and her two grandmother, making the decisions to subject her to the genital mutilations under the pretext of purifying her. And now let's move on continental news. On December 4th, years after evacuating and closing their embassy between the collapse, the Somali central government of the violent, the United States restored permanence. This story reflects a progress in recent years, another step forward in formalizations their relations, he added. Fighting ended on Tuesday in the city of Hodeidah, the main front of the war in Yemen, after an outbreak of violence following the entry into forces of a truce negotiated by the UN, according to the pro-government source and residents.
Twice agree at the UN-sponsored peace talks in Sweden came into effect at midnight Monday, but sources say heavy clashes and air raids continued after the deadline. But it was not possible to determine if the halt in fighting was in response to the ceasefire or just a temporary stoppage. The two warring sides have, however, welcomed the truce in the strategic Sea province. Both the international recognized government and the Houthi rebels say they will comply with the ceasefire. The United Nations say on Monday that the deal was to be implemented at the midnight, even though the agreement reached in Sweden last week, including an immediate ceasefire in Hodeidah and its surrounding.
Here we finish our news editions tonight. Thank you for watching us. Goodbye and have a good night.